Hello, my name is Michael Tillotson and I am an author. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite TV shows, Steven Universe, and particularly the way it ends. Obviously, that means spoilers incoming for Steven Universe, its movie, and its sequel series. Steven Universe ended 3 times. The first ending was the one in the main show, Change Your Mind, and then it followed up with Steven Universe the movie before finally wrapping up with the final episode of Steven Universe Future, titled The Future. So I thought I'd do a quick sort of review thing, I guess, going over the 3 endings, which one of them's the best, which one of them's the worst, and just kind of going over what I did and didn't like about them. So let's start with the first ending, Change Your Mind. I'm not going to talk just about the actual episode, but rather the last big chunk of the show in general. I'm always a little split when it comes to the ending of the original series because I think there are a lot of clever ideas going on, like the twist with Rose being pink, and at least the premise behind Lars of the Stars was interesting. And I liked how we got to see more of Homeworld and all that. But from when Jasper is defeated to the end of the series, the pacing felt very off, you know? It feels like so much happens back to back to back to back. Like we have the zoo, and then Aquamarine, and then Lars of the Stars, and then the Pink Diamond stuff, and then the Diamond Invasion, then the whole White Diamond thing, and it feels like that's a lot that happens in a very small space of time. This may not have been their fault. I wouldn't be surprised if they had plans to stretch this stuff out a lot, but no matter the case, it was very rapid fire. One thing I really liked about the earlier seasons of Steven Universe is it felt like it never really left details behind. From Mirror Gem and Ocean Gem up to Malachite Fusing is such a satisfying series of events because it just all fits together so nicely. It felt like everything we learn in the episodes that feel like filler at first winds up having a big role in the plot, like a puzzle that was put together in just the right way. The latter parts of Steven Universe don't feel that way. We'd never see Aquamarine or Topaz again until Future, let alone Zircon or Emerald, and the whole Lars of the Stars thing, which seemed like a fairly big plot point, wound up having such a little impact on the eventual climax, you know? Maybe if Aquamarine and Topaz got proper villain arcs like Peridot and Jasper did, it would have felt a lot better, especially if they worked in the Rainbow 2.0 and Sunstone fusions into their own episodes rather than rapid firing them all right at the end. And, you know, taking a look at the Pink Diamond twist, I think it's really good. It was a really clever use of the gem powers we already knew about. I have no problem with the twist in and of itself, but, you know, I kind of feel like it would have been more interesting if instead of faking her own shattering, Pearl actually did shatter Pink. Like, imagine Pearl carrying around this burden that she caused the damage from the diamonds. It would have been cool, that's all I'm saying. I like the Pink twist though, don't get me wrong. It's great. But let's talk about Change Your Mind itself. I think Steven Universe is at its best when it's exploring the idea that not everyone can be redeemed, you know? Like, Steven thinks everyone deserves a second chance, but not everyone is going to take that second chance. And one of the best scenes in the show is when he tries to heal Jasper and Jasper rejects his offer. And we get that amazing line from Jasper where she's accusing Steven of reaching out to her at her lowest, and that's how he gets so many gems onto his side. Because when you're at the bottom, you'll follow anyone who makes you feel like you're not worthless. But as the show went on, it kind of felt like it started to lose this part of itself. It seemed to be exploring it with Aquamarine, but she got cheated out of her villain arc, so we never really got to explore it that much with her. And when it came to the diamonds, they decided to go the route of all of them getting their redemption. And you know, it was executed well enough with Yellow and Blue that I could give them a pass. Yes, they've done some awful, horrible things, but they really did seem to understand the flaws with their society and their family were real and that it wasn't okay. And when it came to White though, I feel most of this encounter was really good, but as soon as Steven and his gem are reunited, it kind of falls apart a little bit. Like, White gets embarrassed, and that's enough for her to have a complete turnaround? I don't buy it. And it's a shame that the conclusion here was such a letdown, though, because up until this point, White was absolutely terrifying. It was like she had this weird kind of elegance to her, but it wasn't like a calming elegance. It was just very off-putting, and I loved it. I feel like they may have just written themselves into a corner though. They needed White to be more powerful than Yellow and Blue, but Yellow and Blue also already sort of won during the big battle with them on the beach. I don't know what they could have done to resolve it better, but I kind of wish the show acknowledged the fact that not everyone could be redeemed, and I wish White was one of the people that couldn't be. Like, maybe they don't shatter her, but I do think she should have at least gotten bubbled. Letting White just remain in charge doesn't feel right. But beyond that, Steven finding a way to restore the corrupted gems was a really nice ending that I didn't actually think would happen. Like, the subplot of Steven trying to fix the corrupted gems was there, but it was mostly in the background. It was nice to bring it back, and I liked the conclusion. I do wish we got some more time with Nephrite and Jasper after they were restored, but if this was their last episode, they did a pretty good job on this front. The ending wasn't perfect, but it's pretty good overall, I think. The only big problem I have with it is White's redemption, but otherwise, no major complaints. Next up, the movie. The movie is perfect. There we go. That's it for all we're going to say. No, I'm kidding. But everything about it was just great. Spinel is my favorite character in the show, and one of my favorite characters in fiction in general, and it just feels really well paced. I think they did a really good job at showing how Spinel wants to be better, and she's trying to make things better, but she's just so twisted up inside after what Pink did to her that it's hard for her to trust anyone. She lashes out over and over, and she just wants to hurt Steven so badly, but she doesn't even know why. It's really heartbreaking, and I just want to give her a big hug. I think it was also pretty neat to see another gem that was domestic, for lack of a better word. We see a lot of different gem types, like bismuths are for building, lapises, whatever. Lapis and other lapis lazulis are for terraforming, peridots are for kindergartening, and so on. But aside from pearls, we never really see anything that's not explicitly designed to further the Empire in some way. But Spinel is literally just there for entertainment. That's it, that's Spinel's whole purpose. She's basically just a court jester. And I think this kind of stuff is fun. Another glimpse into what it's like for the Gem Elite. They have Pearl servants and Spinel entertainers. Great. Spinel is the really big thing I love about the movie. If you can't tell, I just love Spinel. She's amazing. And her story arc here is just, it's so good. I think it perfectly encapsulates the feel of the whole series. It's a wonderful way to end things off. Finally, Future. Oh boy. Okay. Most of Future is pretty good. I enjoy most of the whole series. It's nice to see how things turned out after the end of Steven Universe. Like, Bluebird was great, though she deserved to be a bigger villain than she is. Aquamarine got cheated out of her villain arc twice. And it was neat to see how gems were adjusting to human life. And then there was also that Rainbow 2.0 and Sunstone episode, which felt more like a proper introduction than what we got in Change Your Mind. And all of that is great. Not to mention the idea of the plot where the heart of the team has to rediscover their life after no one needs them to be the heart anymore. Brilliant. Though we still never got a Nephrite episode. Like, there was another Nephrite in Future, but it wasn't like the one with the eyeball for her gem. Like, come on, what happened to her? Anyway, things get a little tricky when Steven starts getting his pink powers. I think these powers themselves are a good thing to add to the show. We see Steven get a lot of powers based on what we see as the good side of Rose and Pink, but he didn't inherit any of her bad traits. So having that finally surface is great. And then the big climax where Steven accidentally causes himself to become corrupted, like, that's really cool. For one, we never saw a corrupted diamond and what that would look like. But it's also an amazing twist on the powers that we already knew about, We know that diamonds can do this to gems, and Steven is a diamond. And when he turns back to normal, it's not just the power of love. It's the same thing he does to turn regular corrupted gems back to normal. It's channeling the power of all 4 diamonds. They were all standing in the ocean with him. But in the end, Steven goes back to normal and he loses his pink powers. Sure, he probably still has them, but for all intents and purposes, the show seems to imply that they've vanished or at least been pushed down. And I don't know what to make of this. Like, the pink powers seem to represent Steven coming into his own as a diamond. These were his diamond powers surfacing, and his eyes had the little diamond symbol in them. And he didn't like this, like there was that one scene where White let him take control of her body, and he was like, I'm a diamond. This is the last thing I need to see. And that's what causes his powers to flare out. And it feels like the moral of the story, as far as Future is concerned, is to push down the parts of yourself that you don't like. Like, Steven just represses his diamond powers and goes back to being Steven. Like, actually, am I missing something? I'm pretty sure repressing the parts of yourself that you don't like wasn't the intended message, but that's the only message I can see with this ending. And like, the only change they would have needed to make for this ending to work is for Steven to stay pink. Then it would have been fine. It would have been more like he had to accept this part of himself that wasn't that pretty, He had to accept this part of himself that he didn't like. He had to accept that he was a diamond, and that's okay. And I don't know if it's just me, but when Steven was training with Jasper, it seemed like things were working. Now, yes, Jasper was pushing forward a very unhealthy mindset in Steven, but as far as the actual training, Steven was finding a way to channel his powers in a more controlled and less destructive way, and it did go too far, and Jasper was shattered, which, side note, being able to restore shattered gems was a piece of lore that was very bleh. But that was just an accident, and surely learning to control his powers is better than repressing them, right? Maybe not with Jasper, because Jasper has a very unhealthy view on the world, but learning how to fight with his powers and learning how to let them out in a more healthy way is something good, I would think. I don't know. So, as you've probably figured out, my ordering for the endings is the movie is the best, Future is the worst, Change Your Mind is in the middle. I think Steven Universe is actually pretty good with its endings overall, because most of my complaints with Change Your Mind and The Future could be resolved by a relatively simple change, and most aspects of the ending I find are actually pretty okay. But all of that aside, I love this show. I don't want you to take any of this as me going like, oh man, Steven Universe sucks. No, it's great. Steven Universe was one of the 2 biggest inspirations behind my first book, The Heart of the World. This one right here. So, if any of my opinions on this stuff interests you, then maybe you could give this book a read. If you like Steven Universe as much as I do, and what I like about Steven Universe appeals to you, I wrote some of that in here. Give it a read. Do it. But okay, that's all from me, and I'll see you in another video.